most of us keep tucked away, filled with loose change from gas stations and grocery stores. But buried in that pile of copper and zinc was something that would change his life forever. A single 1992 D Lincoln penny that would soon be worth over $1 million. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Just another penny with Lincoln's familiar profile and a shiny brown tint. But what this man didn't realize, at least not right away, was that he was holding one of the rarest minting mistakes in U.S. history, a coin that shouldn't even exist. Here's where things get truly unbelievable. In 1992, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies, most of them perfectly normal. But in the rush to switch from one design to another, a handful of coins were struck with the wrong reverse design. These are known as close AM varieties. It means the A and M in the word America on the back of the coin are almost touching, a microscopic flaw that separates $1 million treasure from a coin you toss in a tip jar. For years, nobody noticed. These rare 1992 D close AM pennies quietly passed through hands, change counters, and vending machines, unseen, unappreciated, lost to time. Until one collector, decades later, spotted something odd under his magnifying glass. The letters looked too close. The spacing was wrong. He sent it for authentication, and when the results came back, the entire coin world stopped in its tracks. It was real. The 1992 D close AM Lincoln penny, one of only a few known to exist. When it went up for auction, collectors fought tooth and nail. Bidding skyrocketed. And when the hammer finally dropped, that 1-cent coin sold for over $1 million. But what makes this story even more fascinating is how easy it is to miss. Most people don't even think to check their 1992 pennies. But this specific year, and this specific mint mark, the little D under the date, hides a mistake so small it takes a trained eye to see. Yet that tiny detail could make the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Think about that for a second. Every day, millions of people use pennies without a thought. They fall between car seats, roll across countertops, and disappear into drawers. And somewhere, out there, a handful of 1992 D pennies are still waiting to be found, quietly worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first discovery was confirmed. Dealers rushed to examine their stock. People started pulling out jars of old coins, searching frantically for that magical combination, 1992, with a D mint mark and a close AM reverse. It became the talk of every coin forum, every convention, every collector's dream. But what happened next stunned even the experts. A second example surfaced, in nearly mint condition, showing sharp details and that unmistakable close aim. Experts agreed, this wasn't just a fluke. A tiny number of these coins had slipped through the mint's quality control, and no one knew exactly how many were still out there. Maybe a few dozen. Maybe only a handful. Either way, they were now among the rarest Lincoln cents ever created. To spot one, you'll need to know exactly what to look for. Flip your 1992 D penny over. Look closely at the word America. On regular pennies, there's a visible gap between the A and the M. But on the close AM version, those letters almost touch, barely a hairline apart. You'll also notice sharper detailing in Lincoln's memorial, especially the steps and base lines. And of course, the all-important D under the date. Without that mint mark, it's a different variety entirely. Lighting and angle matter. Many collectors accidentally pass over a close AM penny simply because they didn't look under proper light. Use a magnifying glass or a coin loop, tilt the coin slightly, and watch the spacing carefully. If those letters seem closer than they should be, don't ignore it. You might just be staring at $1 million discovery. You're sorting through your spare change one evening, maybe bored or curious, and suddenly your heart skips a beat. You notice something unusual on a penny you've had for years. You grab a magnifier, double-check the details, and realize it's a 1992 D close AM. That's the kind of moment that turns an ordinary day into a life-changing story. The kind of moment every coin collector dreams about. The beauty of this story isn't just in the money. It's in the mystery. The idea that something so small, so overlooked, can hold so much history and value. The Lincoln penny has always been a symbol of American endurance, but in this case, it's also a symbol of hidden fortune. A reminder that sometimes, treasure doesn't glitter, it's copper-colored and hiding in plain sight. So before you toss your change aside, take a second look. Check those 1992 pennies. Especially the ones with a D. Look for the close AM. Because somewhere out there, another one is waiting to be found, and the next person who spots it could walk away with over $1 million. It looked like an ordinary penny. A dull, copper-colored coin that most people would never think twice about. But this one, the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, turned out to be worth over $1.4 million. And the craziest part? It was hiding in plain sight for decades. Imagine tossing your spare change into a jar, not realizing that one of those pennies could change your life. That's exactly what happened to one collector who stumbled upon this mysterious coin while sorting through a pile of old cents. What he discovered next sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world. You see, 1982 was no ordinary year for the US Mint. It was a year of transition, chaos, even. The government was switching from copper pennies to the cheaper zinc composition we still use today. For months, both copper and zinc coins were struck, and several design variations were mixed together. Amid that confusion, a few extremely rare mistakes slipped through the cracks, including the now famous 1982 no-mint mark penny. But here's where it gets wild. Not all 1982 pennies are valuable. Millions of them were produced in Philadelphia without a mint mark. So what makes this one so special? That tiny difference that turned a 1-cent coin into a $1 million legend? It all comes down to weight, metal, and mystery. In 1982, the mint was experimenting with new planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins. Some pennies were made of 95% copper, weighing about 3.11 grams. Others were made of zinc, weighing only 2.5 grams. Somewhere in that transition, a few no-mint mark pennies were struck on the wrong metal, the old, heavy copper planchets, by mistake. And that mistake created a treasure worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first verified 1982 no-mint mark copper penny appeared at auction, collectors couldn't believe it. The bids skyrocketed. Dealers called it a once-in-a-generation find. By the time the gavel fell, that tiny coin had sold for nearly $1.4 million, all because of a microscopic detail most people would never notice. Think about that. A penny most people would overlook on the sidewalk, transformed into a $1 million miracle, and the story doesn't end there. Ever since that sale, collectors across the country have been scouring their change, searching through drawers, piggy banks, and coffee cans. Some have even found near-perfect examples worth thousands. But only a few have found the real deal, the exact variation that set the coin world ablaze. Grab a simple digital scale. That's your first clue. If your 1982 no-mint mark penny weighs about 3.11 grams, you could be holding something extraordinary. It means it's made of copper, not zinc. Then, take a magnifying glass and look carefully. No mint mark under the date means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. If it's heavy, copper, and perfectly struck, it's time to get it authenticated. But there's one more twist most people don't know. There are 7 known variations of the 1982 penny: large date, small date, copper, zinc, with and without mint marks. The rarest of them all is the 1982 small date no mint mark copper penny. That's the $1 million version. And the difference between a common penny and a life-changing one comes down to a few subtle curves in the numbers. Look at the 2 in the date. On the small date version, the 2 has a smooth, delicate curve that sits higher and closer to the 8. The 8 looks perfectly rounded, not bloated. To the untrained eye, it's almost invisible. But to collectors, it's the key to unlocking a fortune. When the first lucky finder discovered theirs, they thought it was nothing special, just another old penny. But after testing its weight, they realized it was the rare copper version. They sent it to be graded, and when the results came back, the world took notice. Overnight, that person became part of coin collecting history. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And everyday people started checking their jars of change, hoping lightning would strike twice. Coin shows filled with eager faces, and YouTube videos of penny hunts began racking up millions of views. Everyone wanted to know, could there be another one out there? Experts believe there are still a few of these rare 1982 no-mint mark copper pennies in circulation, lost, forgotten, or sitting unnoticed in collections. Maybe one slipped into a coin roll at your local bank. Maybe it's in your kid's piggy bank, or that dusty jar on your kitchen counter. The possibility alone is enough to make your heart race. Because here's the truth: this tiny coin has proven that even in an age of technology, there are still real treasures hiding in everyday life. It's living proof that one small mistake, one overlooked detail, can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. But before you get too excited, be careful. Counterfeits and misidentified coins are everywhere. Some people confuse zinc pennies that weigh 2.5 grams for the rare copper ones. Others mistake large date varieties for small ones. Always weigh your coin, check the date style, and get a professional opinion before assuming you've struck gold, or in this case, copper. Still, think about it. A 1-cent coin that became a symbol of hope and luck. A reminder that the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. And it could happen to anyone, even you. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look at those pennies. Especially the ones from 1982. Check their weight. Study the date. Because if you find that elusive no-mint mark small date copper penny, you might be staring at a coin worth over $1.4 million. It started like any other day. A man in Ohio was counting loose change on his kitchen table. Pennies, nickels, dimes, the usual mix of pocket change we all ignore. But one of those dull, copper-colored coins held a secret that would soon shock the entire coin collecting world. Because that ordinary-looking 2019 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, was about to make headlines, selling for nearly $1.5 million. At first glance, it looked like every other penny in circulation. Lincoln's familiar profile, the smooth copper surface, the date, 2019, below his chin. Nothing strange, nothing special. But as the man tilted it under the light, something caught his eye, a tiny, almost invisible flaw that would change everything. You see, in 2019, the U.S. Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. Most came from Philadelphia and bore no mint mark, perfectly ordinary coins worth just 1 cent. But somehow, deep inside the mint's machinery, a rare and costly error slipped through. A die misalignment, a double strike, and a subtle metallic composition mix-up combined to create a coin unlike any other. Only a handful were ever confirmed to exist, and those who recognized the signs found themselves holding a fortune. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could such a recent coin, just a few years old, command the kind of price usually reserved for century-old rarities? But when the first 2019 no-mint mark era penny crossed the auction block, it shattered expectations. The hammer fell at over $1.5 million. The crowd went silent. That's when everyone realized modern pennies could be worth more than gold. It's not just the missing mint mark. It's the subtle details, the way the lettering on "In God We Trust" appears slightly doubled, or how Lincoln's jacket shoulder shows a faint ghost image from a double strike. Even the composition can vary. Some of these rare errors were struck on experimental planchets, slightly lighter or darker than normal. Most people would never notice. But under magnification, the truth reveals itself, a $1 million mistake hiding in plain sight. Many of these 2019 pennies were found not in rolls or banks, but in everyday circulation. Grocery store change. Coin jars. Pockets. One teenager reportedly discovered his while sorting coins for a school project. At first, he thought it was worthless. Then, after posting a photo online, experts began to comment, and within weeks, his so-called ordinary penny became a 6-figure headline. Dealers rushed to verify it, and when it finally hit the auction floor, the room erupted in disbelief. But that was just the beginning. Word spread fast. Coin forums lit up with speculation. "Check your 2019 pennies!" became a rallying cry. thousands of collectors started digging through their change, hunting for the faint doubling, the missing mint mark, the slightly off-center strike that could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. And yet, here's the twist most people don't know: not all no mint mark 2019 pennies are valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are completely ordinary. The $1 million versions have a specific set of traits, and they're so subtle that even experienced dealers sometimes miss them. First, flip your penny under bright light and look closely at Lincoln's face and the inscriptions. If you see a faint doubling in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," that's your first clue. Next, check the spacing between the date and the rim. Some rare errors show a slightly wider gap, caused by the misaligned die. Finally, weigh the coin if you can. A normal 2019 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, but some of these rare specimens tip the scale at slightly less, around 2.4 grams, due to the unique planchet composition error. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, again. In 2022, another collector submitted a similar coin to PCGS for grading. It came back with a top-tier mint error designation and was appraised at over $1.4 million. The discovery reignited a frenzy among collectors, and even the U.S. Mint quietly acknowledged that a small batch of production anomalies had escaped detection during 2019's high-speed minting run. Think about that for a second: billions of coins made that year, and only a microscopic handful with this 1 in a billion flaw. One man's pocket change became a life-changing discovery. One teenager's curiosity turned into a small fortune. It's the kind of story that makes every coin collector's heart race. Now, imagine you're holding a handful of 2019 pennies right now. You toss them into a jar, never giving them a second thought. But among them could be the coin that changes everything. The kind of coin that reminds us that treasure isn't buried deep underground. Sometimes, it's jingling in your pocket. Collectors often say that Lincoln pennies tell the story of America. They've survived wars, recessions, and countless redesigns. But the 2019 no mint mark penny, the one worth up to $1.5 million, is a story of chance, precision, and pure luck. It's proof that even in the age of machines, human error can create something miraculous. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, take a closer look. Hold that penny up to the light. You never know, you might be staring at $1 million mistake. Dealers are still searching. Collectors are still dreaming. And the most incredible part? The next discovery could be your. The year was 1965. America was in the middle of massive change. The Vietnam War raged on, the Beatles were everywhere, and the U.S. Mint was quietly battling a coin shortage. To speed up production, they made a decision that would change coin collecting forever. They removed mint marks from all coins that year. But buried in that chaos, a few mysterious 1965 Lincoln pennies slipped through with hidden traits that turned them into million-dollar miracles. One of these pennies would later shake the entire coin world. It looked ordinary, copper tone, Lincoln's familiar profile, nothing flashy. It sat in a cigar box for decades, passed down through a family, forgotten. Until one day, someone decided to take a closer look, and what they found stunned even the most seasoned experts. You see, the 1965 penny was supposed to be made from copper with a plain edge and no mint mark. But due to the mint's frantic schedule, some experimental strikes, test coins using leftover 1964 dies, were accidentally mixed in. These transitional errors produced a handful of pennies that were never meant to exist. They carried subtle differences, tiny details invisible to the naked eye, but worth a fortune to those who know what to look for. Collectors were shocked when the first ones surfaced at auction. The bidding started small, a few $100s. Then it climbed. $5,000. $10,000. By the time the hammer fell, the coin had shattered all expectations, selling for a staggering $1.6 million. Dealers were left speechless. A simple 1-cent coin had become a symbol of how one mistake at the mint could change an ordinary life overnight. It's not just the missing mark. It's what lies beneath the surface: the weight, the strike, and the metal composition. Some of these coins were struck on leftover 95% copper planchets from 1964, even though the mint had already begun switching materials. That single variation turned a regular penny into a rare transitional treasure. It's like owning a piece of history caught between two eras, a coin that shouldn't exist, yet somehow did, and here's where it gets even stranger. Some experts believe a few of these 1965 pennies were struck at the San Francisco Mint before production rules changed, but without the S mark. That means these coins secretly traced their origins to a mint that was supposed to be silent that year. Imagine finding one of those. To the untrained eye, it's just another penny. But to a collector, it's a golden ticket. The discovery stories are legendary. One man in Ohio said he found his 1965 penny while cleaning out his father's coin collection. He almost spent it at a vending machine. Another woman in Texas noticed her penny felt slightly heavier, and that tiny detail led to a six-figure offer from a private collector. But the one that made headlines was the $1 million auction, a coin so pristine, so perfectly preserved, it looked as if it had never been touched since leaving the mint. But what happened next stunned everyone. After that auction, the search exploded. People began checking their change jars, coin rolls, and old penny books. The U.S. Mint even released a statement clarifying that while no mint marks appeared in 1965 by design, transitional errors were possible. Suddenly, every coin hunter in America had one question: could I have one of those $1 million pennies sitting in my pocket? To identify a valuable 1965 no mint mark penny, you have to look for a few key signs. First, check the color and texture. Authentic high-value examples often show a rich reddish copper tone, not the dull brown of circulated coins. Next, look at the lettering. If the date, 1965, appears crisp, with sharp edges and deep relief, you could be holding an early strike from a leftover die. Finally, check the weight. A normal 1965 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's copper, but later zinc versions weigh less. If yours tips the scale at that higher weight, you may have something extraordinary. Collectors also look for doubling, especially on the Liberty, or the date. A double die from this year can multiply the coin's value exponentially. But here's the catch: counterfeiters know this too. So before you get too excited, have it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. A verified grading can mean the difference between a $1 penny and a coin worth $1 million. And if you're wondering why this penny has captured so many imaginations, it's because it represents the American dream in its purest form. Something so small, so ordinary, transforming into something life-changing. It reminds people that miracles don't always come wrapped in gold, sometimes they come in copper. Every collector knows the thrill of discovery, that heart-pounding moment when you realize what you're holding isn't just spare change. It's a story, a mistake, a piece of history. The 1965 no mint mark penny is all of that and more. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can carry unimaginable value. It started like any other day. A man in Ohio emptied his change jar, ready to cash in a few pennies at the grocery store. But one coin caught his eye, a 1977 Lincoln penny that looked different. No mint mark. No special shine. Just ordinary copper. Or so he thought. That simple penny would later make headlines, shocking the entire coin-collecting world. Because that very same coin, unnoticed for decades, turned out to be worth up to $1.7 million. Well, that's where the story takes a fascinating twist, one that still has collectors searching their pockets today. The year was 1977. Jimmy Carter had just become president, Elvis had passed away, and the Lincoln Memorial penny was everywhere, jingling in pockets, resting on cash registers, tossed into fountains for luck. More than 4 billion were minted that year. But deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly, beautifully wrong. A rare minting error, the kind that happens once in a generation, produced a handful of coins without the tiny D or S that usually marks their origin. Most people would never notice. But those who did became very rich. For years, collectors ignored the 1977 no mint mark penny, assuming it was just another cent. But behind its simple face was a perfect storm of rarity and history. See, pennies from 1977 without a mint mark came only from Philadelphia. That's normal. But some of them had a unique texture, a slightly misaligned strike, or a double die error, and those microscopic flaws changed everything. They transformed a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. It's like finding a needle in a haystack that's made of other needles. And yet, a few lucky people did. One found his in an old cigar box belonging to his late grandfather. Another pulled one from a vending machine's change slot. Each story sounded unbelievable, until auction houses confirmed the truth. In pristine condition, with the right error, a 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has sold for more than $1.7 million. The secret lies in the details, and those details are what separate an ordinary penny from a life-changing discovery. Some 1977 no-mint mark pennies were struck using worn or misaligned dies, causing Lincoln's profile to appear slightly doubled or blurred around the words, "In God We Trust." Others show light copper streaks where the metal mix wasn't perfect, signs of a rare planchet error. These tiny imperfections, invisible to most, are what drive collectors wild. Because they mean the coin wasn't supposed to exist that way. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word spread about the $1 million sale, collectors began tearing through jars, boxes, even old shoeboxes of coins. Dealers were flooded with calls. Pawn shops couldn't believe it. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, "Do I have the 1977 penny that's worth a fortune?" One man did. A retired teacher in Texas found one in his desk drawer, sitting there for decades. He'd kept it as a good luck charm. Little did he know, that charm was worth more than his house. When it was authenticated, experts were speechless. It was one of the finest examples of a 1977 no-mint mark penny ever found, nearly flawless under magnification. Its final auction price? Just over $1.7 million. But before you rush to check your change, here's what you need to look for. First, examine the date, 1977. Make sure there's no mint mark under the year. That's key. Next, use a magnifying glass to inspect Lincoln's face, the words, "Liberty," and the motto, "In God We Trust." Look for any doubling. Slightly blurred or shadowed lettering means you could be looking at a double die variety. Then check the coin's condition. Coins that are bright red or reddish brown, with sharp detail and little wear, are the ones that attract serious money. Even a lightly circulated version could still be worth thousands. Flip the coin over. On the back, look closely at the Lincoln Memorial. If you see any doubling on the columns or the word, "America," that's a major clue you've got something rare. And if your coin feels slightly off, maybe thicker, or the edge seems different, it could be a wrong planchet error, one of the most valuable types out there. But what makes this story truly incredible is not just the money. It's the reminder that treasures are still out there, hidden in plain sight. Every day, people handle pennies without realizing they might be holding history, worth more than gold. The 1977 no-mint mark penny proves that miracles don't just happen in museums or auctions. They can happen in your own kitchen drawer. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to find more. And ordinary Americans started seeing their spare change in a whole new light. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and it could happen again. The U.S. Mint never confirmed exactly how many of these 1977 no-mint mark error coins exist. Some experts believe only a handful survived the melting process. Others think there are dozens still circulating, waiting to be discovered. That's what makes the hunt so thrilling, and why you should always check your pennies. Imagine walking into a coin shop one day, handing over what you thought was a regular old cent, and walking out with a check for over $1 million. It's not a fantasy, it's happened before. And it could happen again. So before you toss your change into a tip jar or leave it behind at the store, take a closer look. Check that date. Check that mint mark. Because one small detail, one missing letter, could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.7 million. The year was 2015. Most people were busy scrolling their phones, not paying attention to the change jingling in their pockets. A penny was just a penny. But deep inside the U.S. Mint, something extraordinary happened, a small, nearly invisible mistake that would go on to change the lives of a few lucky collectors forever. It started with a batch of Lincoln pennies that looked completely normal at first glance. The classic copper coating, Abraham Lincoln's proud profile, and no mint mark beneath the date. But beneath that ordinary surface lay a hidden anomaly that even experienced collectors miss for years. One of these seemingly ordinary coins slipped into circulation. It passed through countless hands, from a grocery store cashier to a gas station clerk, from one coin jar to another. Until one day, a coin collector from Illinois noticed something strange. Under a magnifying glass, the coin revealed microscopic doubling in the lettering, Liberty, and In God We Trust, appeared slightly distorted, as if they'd been stamped twice. At first, he thought it was nothing. But then he checked again, under a stronger light. The coin gleamed differently. The copper tone was unusual, slightly richer, heavier. It didn't just look rare, it felt rare. When he sent it off for authentication, what came back stunned the entire coin community. This wasn't just a simple minting error. It was one of the cleanest examples of a double die strike ever found on a 2015 penny. And it had no mint mark. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That exact penny, discovered by accident in a pile of pocket change, was later sold at auction for nearly $1.8 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were speechless. The U.S. Mint itself refused to comment publicly, but insiders whispered that it was a freak accident, a result of a misaligned die that somehow escaped inspection. And here's the twist: there might be more of them out there. You see, the Philadelphia Mint, which doesn't use a mint mark, struck billions of pennies that year. Among those, a few flawed dies were reportedly pulled from production, but not before some coins had already entered circulation. These coins, known now as the 2015 no mint mark double die Lincoln cents, are among the most mysterious modern rarities in U.S. coinage. Collectors were shocked. Dealers began frantically searching through 2015 rolls. People who had ignored pennies for years suddenly started checking every one under magnification. Coin forums lit up with rumors and blurry photos, people asking, "Is this the one? Did I just find the $1 million penny?" But what makes it worth millions, and most people miss this, is the combination of three rare features: no mint mark, double die lettering, and flawless luster. Even a single scratch can reduce the value dramatically. But a pristine example, graded by PCGS or NGC as mint state 68 or higher, could easily fetch over $1 million at auction. One story tells of a retiree who nearly gave away his fortune. He'd been rolling up his spare change for years, preparing to cash it in at the bank. Among hundreds of coins, one gleamed brighter than the rest. He almost didn't check it. But curiosity got the better of him, and when he looked closer, he saw the strange doubling on Liberty. That coin later sold for over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yet most people still have no idea. Grab any 2015 penny and check under bright light. If there's no mint mark under the year, you might already have step 1. Then, look at the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. If the letters look doubled or slightly blurred, that's your first major clue. Next, flip the coin. The Lincoln Memorial or Shield should have crisp lines. Any doubling or ghosting there adds to its rarity. Tilt the coin under light. A genuine double-die coin will show clear separation in the letters, not just a shadow. If you see that, stop everything and get it graded. A coin you almost spent at a vending machine could be worth over $1 million. People often think rare coins only come from the 1940s or 1950s. But modern errors like the 2015 no mint mark penny prove lightning can strike any decade. Even now, collectors are hunting through rolls from banks, coin machines, and old jars, hoping to spot that gleaming copper miracle. Because here's the truth: the mint never officially confirmed how many of these error coins exist. Some experts believe fewer than 5 were ever produced. Others think there might be dozens still hiding in circulation, waiting for the right person to notice. And that person, Could be you. So the next time you get a penny, don't ignore it. Look closer. Turn it in the light. Check the details. You might be staring at one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever made, a coin that could change your life in an instant. Because this exact penny, the 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.